Does the idea of running your own airline fascinate you? Maybe flight simulation has become a little stagnant and you wonder where to fly next, only to lose motivation, and perhaps that indecisiveness led you to YouTube and this very video. Maybe economy systems are of interest and earning in-game currency is a way to pass the time. If any of these apply, Air Hauler 2 on X-Plane 11 may be the answer you're looking for.
Welcome to Flight Brothers FT, produced by Tim and Lee. Plan the flight and fly the plan. All charts courtesy of Navigraph charts, not to be used for real-world navigation. Be sure to subscribe and explore the rest of the channel for high-quality aviation content and entertainment.
So what is Air Hauler 2? To quote Just Flight, Air Hauler 2 puts you in complete control of your own freight and passenger company, both in the boardroom and in the cockpit. Tim and I had a little bit of discussion on our recent podcast, Podcast 2. If you guys haven't listened to it, please go check that out. We'll drop the link in the video description below. I'm going to address some of those questions, and he sent me a list here, which we're going to kind of walk through. This is not going to be an in-depth discussion or view of Air Hauler 2. This video is intended to be a quick kind of once-over to see if maybe it's something that each of you as a sim pilot are interested in adding to your collection. In our discussions on FBFT, Tim posed some questions to me, and I figured I would actually address those in this video, and we'll have a follow-up with a little bit more of the details and how to run it. But first things first, the file is relatively small. I think it's between 140 160 meg, so it's a real quick download. Obviously it'll go to wherever your download directory is. So we're going to walk you briefly through here on my desktop. We're going to launch Air Hauler 2 for X-Plane, and we'll show you how to create a new company. Here is me, obviously, with Flight Brothers FT Airlines and our logo. So we're going to go to a new company. We'll set this up, and then for subsequent videos, we'll really go back to the FBFT one. So we'll do a new company here. We'll set that up. And here you see you get the path to X-Plane. So we're going to go ahead, there, and browse to that. And there it is. So we'll open the X-Plane folder. And there's our .exe. So we'll next. Company name, we'll just call this one Video 1. And I'll be Lee and Lee. We'll make that easy. Next. Choose your difficulty. So here you can see you'll start with, if you go easy passenger, you start with 2 million, 60% rep, passenger config 737, down to Nomad. Nomad lets you pretty much do flights from everywhere. So you'll just fly from A to B, pick up a load at B, fly to C, pick up a load at C, etc. So your career mode and difficulty here change your reputation. And I believe the developer said there's a video out there. I'll link it down as well. But I believe it was 40 to 50%, somewhere around there, is what you really want to be at to where you start earning reputation and increased money and loads. So what I did on the FBFT one, and we're going to choose that here, is we're going to start with the $2 million, 60% rep, and a passenger configuration 737. The plan will be to sell this, and actually we can do that right here, immediately sell aircraft in exchange for $31 million. So we'll do that, and then we'll choose our airport. The airports have different landing fees, so that's something to consider when you're starting out. High landing fees at major airports are going to impact you financially. We're going to select, I did Deer Valley, which if you guys are aware of the Phoenix area, Tim and I are both from this area, so I'm going to use that again. It has relatively economical fees. We can see here landing fee $694. These vary by category, so the larger the aircraft, the more you're going to pay. But we're going to go ahead and do that. Here we see the map of the airports in the area. Gives us our landing fees for the different categories, fuel prices, runway information, etc. We'll add that. Here is your job creations. it's a good idea to start with the default value and then kind of figure out where you want to go from there. In mine, I have the job volume crank up to more. This is the quantity of jobs Air Hauler is going to give you. So if you want a large quantity to pick from, you'll want that a little higher. Distance, this is going to be shorter flight durations. This will be longer. Size, this is for airports and markets. So if you move this to more, I believe that's going to have you fly into your Gatwicks, your Heathrows, De Gaulle's, Atlantas, things like that. Whereas when you get down to the smaller ones, that's more of your municipal and kind of backwoods airports. Internal jobs, these are base-to-base transfers. So if we have set up here to be Deer Valley as our base of operations. If we expand and get another base, we'll get more or less jobs between those bases. And I believe those jobs internally, you develop less reputation for them. And airport size, again here. Let me correct myself. I apologize. Airport size here, that's obviously your airports, your Atlantas, your Heathrows, etc. Size here is your cargo volume. I apologize for that. So the lower the number here, you might have, say, 500 pounds of cargo, whereas more, you might end up with 30 or 40,000 pounds of cargo. Again, we don't have a lot of money to start out, so we're going to be using small aircraft to start. So we're just going to leave it here. It'll give us that variety. We've now completed the wizard. We're ready to go. Click finish. You'll need to complete a type rating test in your aircraft before you can fly it. So we'll probably go through that, include some of that here for you guys to take a look at. I'll skim through it, kind of do the before and after. We get applauded there. We have no aircraft in our fleet. And we'll move on from there. Again, what we're going to do now, I'm going to show you how to, first and foremost, you're going to need an airplane. Each airplane requires a type rating. In order for you to do that, you will take off in the aircraft, fly it around. I believe it's 2 or 3 altitudes and 2 or 3 heading changes, and then it'll say return to the airport that you departed from, which would be your base. So after you do that, you, the owner, operator, company owner, pilot, will receive your type rating in that aircraft, and you will be able to fly it wherever you want from that point on. The type ratings follow you should you start a secondary company, so you will only have to do that type rating on their aircraft one time. So let's get over to the marketplace. If we click on the top here, first thing we want to do, a lot of us have add-on aircraft. We want to add those in. So we're going to click Marketplace. We're going to look at aircraft. Here, guys, these are aircraft that I have added. So initially when the game boots, you've told it where X-Plane resides. So to about here and up, these are all default aircraft. We have new costs and lease costs. This will be the lease is a monthly fee that you basically lease the aircraft for. The new cost is a purchase. So toward the bottom end here, we've got this Stinson L5 for $207,000, and it looks like our highest price is either our default Laminar 744, or we even have the it's a 741. So 188 million down to about 200,000, and then we're going to go below that. What's a couple of cool aircraft here? The Zebo, always popular. That is 31.1 million. So you can buy that to start with, but it's not going to give you any cash. I elected to start a little smaller. Again, here you can see we have the Concorde, actually, the Collimatic Concorde, $77 million. Good choice. We have the FlyJ 727s for about 33 million. What might be another popular choice for us on the big side? Where is here SSG 747, 211 million. So you can see the big jets are really expensive. Makes sense. Here we have the Cessna Skyhawk with the rep that I've added. We have the rep and the G1000. $240,000. So that gives us a lay of the land. We can go to private sales here. And these are pre-owned aircraft, guys. We can purchase these for a reduced price. I'll expand that a little bit for you. For a reduced price. However, those are going to need maintenance once we purchase it. And you can see here as we click, this X-Craft's E140, by the way, is down here in Mexico, I believe the Baja Peninsula. So if we didn't want to fly that ourselves, we could pay a delivery fee to have it flown to our base of operations. So back to the aircraft. I purchased an aircraft yesterday that I have not added. So we're going to click on the Management tab. Let's refresh this. And each of these tabs, when you open, they'll actually stay here. You can open and close those for kind of quick navigation back and forth. So we'll go to Aircraft Management. And then what I want to do is I went to Import Aircraft. And what I bought yesterday was the Challenger 300. So we're going to wait for it to load. Takes just a minute here. And now import from list. So this is all of the aircraft that we have that I have not imported. Once you import it, it will disappear. So we have everything from the F4 Phantom to the older SSG 748 Spitfires. Any aircraft appears to be importable. Don't know how much cargo you're going to put on your Spitfire, so I'm going to pass on that. So here's what I was looking for, our Bombardier Challenger 300. I want to go ahead and import that, so I will click Import. Aircraft imported successfully. Please review aircraft details and adjust. So it's going to prompt us with this information. The aircraft type is set. It's a CL30. That'd be the ICAO code for it. Your cruise speed, fuel consumption, etc. Your damage speeds. Required network mode. This can be checked or unchecked. If you check it, Air Hauler is going to tell you set your fuel and set your payload at these numbers. You'll have to do that. If you leave that box unchecked, it will do that automatically, and when you click accept and fly load, it will boot X-Plane for you with everything loaded. All you have to do is start the plane and fly the route. Now, if you use third-party add-ons or perhaps some of your more detailed aircraft and you want to manually load it, you'll want to click required network mode. We're going to go ahead and skip that now. I haven't flown with this airplane yet, so actually I just purchased it last night. So we're going to click OK. Now we're going to go to Marketplace again. We'll click our aircraft, and now right here, our Challenger 300 is now available to purchase at a price of $5 million. That's very tempting, actually, because in my Flight Brothers I have about 6 or 7 million right now. $5 million, or we can lease it for $625,000. So that's going to be one of the most important things I think you want to get. Is when I got on here, I wanted to import my planes. I said, how much do these cost? What can I buy? So hopefully I've answered that question for you. If you purchase aircraft, let's purchase this Cessna, for example, $239,000. So we're going to click down on the bottom right, buy aircraft. Do I want to buy yes? Personal is if you, the pilot owner, only want to use it. Company allows any pilot working for you to fly the aircraft and yourself. So I'm going to go company. I want everyone to fly it. Passenger seats. The aircraft can be used for passenger and cargo. If you configure it for cargo only, it will only be used for cargo. So you will get a slight payload penalty by using passenger and seats. However, it lets you perform both missions. We're going to go ahead with that, and we will assign it to Deer Valley. Purchase complete. And then our cabin configuration, you can set classes. We're just going to leave it as economy. It allows us 3 passengers. Okay. There we go. We get a trophy for buying our first aircraft. Now, we can go back to our company. we can look at our available jobs. So we're going to hit this pretty quick, guys. Again, I'm going to do a follow-up in more detail. These were the first questions I wanted to have answered. So I've shown you how to buy your aircraft. We've bought that. We've seen how to load your aircraft. That's now done. If we want to do a flight, here we have we're based at Deer Valley, DVT. This is a relatively short flight here from DVT to XNI. I'll zoom in here so you can see it a little better. So that's over to New Mexico. We have a distance of 176 miles. Here's our cargo and our quantity. And that job will pay $5,800. If we look down here in the bottom, we have that job expires in 2 days, 19 hours. Here's our fee. And we can scroll and have information on both the departure airport, that job with the payload, and information of our arrival airport as well as our fuel costs. If we click accept job, we will accept it. Then if we go up to accepted jobs now, here is our one job. This is what we selected already. Okay, it shows us some information about that job, 0% delivered, and again, it has our deadline. If we click fly now, this will prompt us to go ahead and fly the route ourselves. If we have that networked mode disabled, it'll boot X-Plane for us. It will put 727 pounds of cargo on there, and it will get us the fuel that we have allocated. I'm going to click that. So if we look here, this is getting ready to go. So we're going to load this cargo. So it says here I can't load it, the quantity required, because I will be over the max takeoff weight. Now, you can slightly overload the max takeoff weight. However, that's kind of unrealistic. You wouldn't do that in real life. It says here we're over capacity by 59 pounds. Well, it's a simulator. We can probably squeeze that. But if we look here, this is something that confused me at first. This slider, if we look all the way to the left, this is fuel loading. You'd think left is empty. However, on board we have 168 pounds of fuel, or 28 gallons, and it gives us our range estimates. So we can take we can't take any less than this because Air Hauler is saying we need this to complete the flight. So we could either part load, take more fuel, or take the full load and hope it works out for us. We would click OK at this time. With everything set up as is, it would load 727 pounds on board and 168 pounds or 28 gallons of fuel, and we would be off to fly it. However, for the sake of this first video, we're going to go back again. We have this job selected, assigned to AI. We're going to take our Cessna 172. We don't have a pilot. We're going to address that as well. So we will go back, cancel that. You can't accept jobs unless it has a pilot. So we're going to go back to our marketplace. We're going to click crew. And here we can see we have, let me expand this window slightly. It gives you all these names here, the salaries, their rank. This is their maximum takeoff weight over to the far right, and then you'll see type ratings. We obviously need someone with a Cessna 172, so we are going to click on each of these until we find a C-172. This is interesting. This guy actually has a C-130 Concorde, 737 L5. This Seth Crisp flies them all. Again, looking for that C-172. And if your pilot does not have it, have the type rating, you can actually pay for them to get their type rating. They will be unavailable for about half to, just call it, one duty day, and they will get their type rating. You, the company owner, will pay for that type rating, so the smaller the aircraft, the cheaper the cost. Okay. Seriously? Okay, here we go. 172. So we're going to click that. This is Christopher Barker, and he gets a pretty hefty $13,000 salary. We're going to hire the pilot. At this point, he's going to get what he's asking for because he's the only one with that type rating. We're going to go back to our cargo jobs. Again, those were the tabs. They pop up here in the My Office. So now we're going to assign it to him. Now we have assigned pilots, cargo locations. This tells us we have 727 pounds sitting at our base storage of Deer Valley, which is where the mission is originating. We're going to assign to AI. Again, back to our aircraft. It's the only one we have currently. As you purchase aircraft, that list will expand, and pilots here will expand as well. So Chris is going to go fly this for us. So we have assigned it to him. Now I'm going to click refresh. And then if we click on it, we can see our job details. Chris Barker is in the 172, and he will load it. And now that cargo is actually being loaded, and then it will be flown real time over here. You actually don't need to keep the game open. You can minimize it or close it, and then you'll just get paid. There are ways to see where it is en route. You can click the crew tab here, and sorry, I misspoke. We'll go to company information, pilots and ops, and here we can see he's positioning 2KXNI in the 172. It tells us how many jobs he's assigned. There's all these tabs, guys. I'm not going to go into detail on those. There's other videos out on YouTube, as much as I hate to do that. Ad hoc is going to let you fly a passenger route wherever you are in whatever plane you're in. It's kind of the free flight, if you will. Routes is going to be scheduled passenger operations. If we go to our overview, this shows us Deer Valley and then all of our available missions. The green one are missions in progress, or that we've assigned pilots and aircraft to. So back to Tim and I's discussion. He asked, what is the air hauler universe like? And I wanted to address that. Let's see, let's look at the overview tab here. Actually, that's where we're at here. So this is, what we have available, and it looks like right now you can change the colors of these lines. I actually have mine in my regular one as red, but this is an active one. So this is what's going on. In podcast 2, I mentioned I had time with Flight Sim Passengers on Flight Sim 9, which was the 2004 Century of Flight edition. This is not even in the same league. You're so much further along than this. You can choose to fly these. I sometimes wake up in the morning, have my first cup of coffee. I'll come in here and I'll dispatch all my pilots. They're going to earn revenue for me, and I don't even have to touch it. So you can run it as just an airline management game, if you will, or you can be involved in flying it through the methods I've shown, and I'll show a further detailed one later or in a subsequent video. Am I a pilot, a businessman, or both? Well, as I mentioned, you get the type ratings. You're a pilot. You are a manager as well. In order to get your type rating, you'd have to have the few heading changes, a few altitude changes, and you want I think it's called a good landing rate, which is approximately a minus 250 to minus 300 feet per minute or less vertical touchdown rate. That information is available to you. I might try and pull some of that up from my own videos here. How much of the flying can or must I do? Well, let's go to the Fleet tab. It's under Company Information and Fleet. And again, down at the bottom, we have the fly this aircraft, the cargo on board. You can position this aircraft. If you have a pilot that or a load from another location, you can send that pilot over there. You have changing configuration, which that can be done at a base, and it will allow you to You'll have to pay to do that, and it'll convert it from packs to cargo, cargo to packs, etc. Your maintenance here, you have a condition that'll wear down. That's 100%. You can pay to do that, and then you have your ABC checks. A B check will cover an A check, and a C check will cover a B and A. So hopefully you can get all those to line up so you're only paying for one check. But that's a way to kind of manage the maintenance of it. Again, we've talked about the accepted jobs that you've done. I'm going to roll in footage of my own here. I think it's a better way to do it. So we're back in the Flight Brothers FT one here, and I want to show you guys what I'm looking at here. This is the FBFT one. Again, we're back here in the overview map. So how much of the flying can or must I do? Well, I've got, I think, about 7 or 8 employees now working for me, so I don't have to do a whole lot of it unless I choose to. But we're going to go to the fleet tab. So here's my fleet. I have the, this is the default King Air C90. I actually have 2 of those. And then I have my Kodiak. I have X-Craft's ERJ. I have the V-Flight Air Piper P28A. Default Cessna 172. Default Cirrus Jet. I have the DA62, which is an Aerobasque. And then I have the Airfoil, Airfoil Labs King Air 350. So I have all of these working for me, and these are my pilots here. So if I look at this, this is kind of telling me what's going on. I actually have a bunch of pilots and aircraft right now back at my base. Some of these have already gone out and done deliveries. You can see down here in Deming, I have a Cessna 172 down there. And my pilot for that. And then I have my DA62 and my King Air are flying back. They had loads at Salt Lake City. Click refresh here. I have noticed after you do a task, it's a good idea here to click refresh, and it'll give you that updated status. For example, cargo on board. Here, if we click for this job, cargo on board says 2377. So we have some computer games, and then also it's set up to fly some flowers back to Salt Lake. So I have 2 jobs functionally scheduled for this aircraft, or this pilot and aircraft. We've talked about the ad hoc flights. And so do I like it? Tim asked that. And the answer is yes. I do find it gives me a little something to do. There's airports I have flown to when I've done my own flights that I probably would not have flown to. I think the business management aspect's pretty interesting. It's quite entertaining to do that. And as I mentioned, it far surpassed anything that was in Flights and Passengers. The biggest difficulty I find is, I've purchased 6 or 7 smaller aircraft, and I have, let's go up to our company information finance. So you can see here I have $4.7 million. So I'm not going to be buying any turbine aircraft anytime in the near future. I'd like to get one for increased cargo capacity, and so I can do some longer range flights that are a little faster. The King Air and the Cirrus Jet are the 2 fastest aircraft that I have. How restrictive is the route structure? That's another question that Tim asked me here. And I want to go to options and job creation options. Again, we were setting that up. You can change this on the fly. It won't update instantaneously. It takes a little bit to do that, but it will increase our job volume, which I have done. So you can pretty much fly wherever you'd like, depending on where you start. Let me look at my fleet again here. These are range rings, guys, what you're seeing there. So it's hard to tell because my airplanes are all kind of grouped together, so they're almost concentric. But probably my longest range one's probably maybe that King Air. Actually, it's probably the Embraer. But so I can access this part of the world. So depending on where you want to base your aircraft, you might have different options, of course. So I really want to get honestly, probably that Challenger is going to be my next purchase. That's going to be my first true jet airplane behind the Embraer. I will show you this. I have a route set up. This is for my Embraer, and I have 2 pilots. That aircraft requires 2 pilots in real life. It does that the same in Air Hauler. And I have routes set up. So this aircraft actually flies on Monday at the Zulu times. It flies Las Vegas, or from Deer Valley to Las Vegas, which I need to fix that and make that a revenue flight. But then goes Las Vegas, Deer Valley, San Diego, Deer Valley. Oh, actually I do, sorry. So Flight Brothers Flight 111 is Deer Valley, Vegas, Deer Valley, San Diego, Deer Valley. And then it repeats. So I actually run this 5 days a week. And the pilots here are Samuel and Grace. And after you set that up, you need about a day. And that's for passengers to, quote, buy tickets, I think, somewhere around half a day to a day, and then that route will go live. I do nothing with it. It is flown automatically. If you choose to fly this sector, then the computer pilots will not fly it, but it will be, quote, flown based on the revenue that you generated during your flight, so you can participate in those as you like. What aircraft can I use? I think I addressed that in the beginning. Anything in your folder, you'll just have to map it. Can you do silly things like use a B-52? According to this, absolutely. We can go to the marketplace, look at aircraft, and let's look for that buff. There you go, B-52G. It looks like it has a cargo capacity of 70,000 pounds or units, and is $99.3 million new. So if you'd like to fly that, there it is. I think one of the funnier ones, when it default loaded, you can actually get the SR-71. I think it had a cargo capacity of about 700 pounds, so can't imagine the economics of operating that thing. But if you'd like to, it's in here. And I've addressed the payload weight being affected by fuel and range. So the more fuel you add, the less payload you can add. Makes sense, but that gives you a little bit of flexibility. Alright, so let's look at our maintenance tab briefly here. We have the default King Air C90, which you'll notice is in the South Carolina Gamecocks livery, and it's also featured on the channel under, I believe, our Quirks of the King Air video. So if you hadn't seen that, go ahead and check that out. If we can't repair this. Actually, we can't repair it because it's in flight. So let's see if it'll let us. Alright, that's not going to let us do anything. So what's on the ground? There we go. Let's take a look at the Embraer. So if we click repair here, it's at 100%. It's not going to let us do anything. I actually just did maintenance on the King Air 350. I think it was down to about 93%, and I think that was about $23,000. So you would click the carry out repairs. If you've purchased insurance, which is right here and is a monthly expense, you can defer your maintenance costs. So it'd be a reduced cost. However, your premiums go up. So if you don't have the liquid cash, that's an option. However, I've been paying cash out of pocket for everything so far. I don't know the long-term effects of either, if one's a better way. It does say if you make multiple claims on it or something that you could risk being uninsurable. So I'm not really willing to take that gamble at this point. We'll go back down here. Let's look at our A check. It tells us the aircraft's not due for another 48 hours. Conduct anyway. It'll cost $14,000. So just as an FYI, you know, for you guys' information, the operations that I'm doing, the Deer Valley, Vegas, San Diego, my gross is about $10,000 to $12,000 per leg. Fuel costs are about $1,400 to $2,000, and landing fees are around $600 or $700. So my straight cost for landing fees and fuel is about $2,000 to $3,000. So that gives me a kind of net of about $8,000 or $9,000 per flight. However, I think you have to pay slot fees and stuff too, if I'm not mistaken. Let's go back here to our passenger route and sector details. Here's where we can actually set our pricing. And you can set purchase service, no service. You do not operate this, I don't think. I think it handles that automatically. Gives you your boarding time. And I have these ticket prices set. So here's what our expected revenue would be. Direct operating costs, $2,500. So yeah, here it's saying our landing fee, our slot costs, and fuel costs are that much. And down at the bottom here, and I guess you guys can't see that, in this area, we're averaging a 97% utilization in economy and 6 of 8 seats, or 75% in premium. So that's not a bad route for us. We'll go check out that company finance, click ledger, and here we can see what's going on, and we'll refer back to that. That's Grace. I want to hear Sam. So for example, let's come down to here. So the San Diego Deer Valley route, it cost us $1,700 in fuel. Landing fees for San Diego Deer Valley was $195, but our income was $11,800. Each of these are clickable by pilot, date, time, description, income. You can sort them however you like. I like to do the date, obviously, so that I can see my most recent revenue sources. Well, I purchased AirHauler 2 a couple of days after release, but downloaded, installed it, and was unable to really get into the game itself. I've been going at it for just over a week now, so I'm hoping to release maybe some future videos on the channel here as I learn more. I've only scratched the surface with what's capable of this game. I mean, there's virtual airlines that I think you can invite your friends to get involved in. They can fly revenue routes for you. You get money, they get money, etc. There's a whole nother world where you can purchase commodities at different locations, resell them at higher prices, make profits on that, build factories and construction. So this is an entire almost airline manufacturing simulator, guys. It's way beyond what I was expecting. So I'd like to bring you more of that information in the future as I learn it. Future video I would like to do in the short term is going to be show you how I dispatch my employees and get them working to make some revenue for me. How I select the routes, what aircraft I select for those routes, and also how we would fly one as the pilot. So AirHauler 2 is available now for X-Plane 11 and is also currently available for P3D and FSX for $49.99 US dollars. Go to Just Flight's website at justflight.com. Until next time, plan the flight and fly the plan.